Ready? Stand. Whoops. I'm sorry, when I took my mask, you know. There you go. Buenos dias. Good morning, guys. Welcome to chapel. We are so excited for what we're going to be sharing the next few minutes together. We have some stories to tell. We have some experiences and a great opportunity to share with you some of our own learning, how we are growing and discovering, learning to appreciate God's creation and diversity. I want to have just a quick word of prayer so we can get started with our panel today. Let's bow our heads in prayer. And thank you again for your creation. Thank you for each and one of us, for our stories. Thank you for what you have given us in the last year or so and how much we have grown. But also for the adventures that you have given us the opportunity to engage in with other people. Thank you for the learning that is taking place. Thank you for the assurance that we can trust in you, that your promises are secure. So I pray this that in your name, Jesus. Amen. Amen. Again, we're going to have a panel discussion today. Have some guests. In a few minutes, I'm going to have them introduce themselves down. But remember to text your questions for the second part of chapel. I think you will see something on the screens. Questions related to the topic we are discussing. And then Hannah will choose a few questions for the second part of our discussion today and have the panelists to share with us their thoughts about it. Today we are discussing an important topic related to diversity. It has to do with interracial relationships, dynamics, circumstances, situations. I want to have each one of them to introduce yourselves, tell us what you do now, what's your job, and let's start with that section first. Let's start with Dr. Owen.
All right. I'm Lori Owen, and I'm currently the Vice President of Academic Affairs at Grace College. That's what I'm doing. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there you go.
Hi, I'm Gershom Tadesse. I am a resident director at Beta and Indy, which I both love equally. So.
I'm Brittany Tadesse. Some of you might know me as the female resident of Beta Dorm. I'm proud. I am an educator of third graders.
I am Nina Berger. I don't work at Grace. I am a teacher at Lincoln Elementary School here in Warsaw, and I teach 5th grade.
My name is Ryan Berger, and I work at Zimmer Biomet in regulatory.
Oh, by the way, Nina and Ryan, you did both graduate from Grace. Yep. Can you tell us the year when you guys graduated?
I don't know. It took me 5 years. I don't know, 5 years or so.
Okay.
I was before him.
It was before,
finished
okay.
before he did.
I still remember it was my first year of teaching when I met you, I think, Ryan. Okay, I'm not going to say.
I remember that too.
Yes. Okay. Hey, I'm going to have a question. The first question is for all of you on the panel. How did you meet the person of a different race, and what drew you to that dynamic, to that person? Tell us a little bit of the background, how you started that relationship, and what's going on now. Let's start with Dr. Owens.
How I met. We're not a couple, right? Okay, I just want to clarify that. How I Met You, Benjamin. I stared into your eyes. No, okay. No, my person, right? My person of color that I adore dearly is my son, and so for me it was easy, right? He was an infant, and I was watching him in church, and he was gorgeous and had ginormous big brown eyes. And somebody said that we foster parent as well, and someone said that his family that was going to adopt had changed their mind, and so we said yes. And Monday I got a call, and Wednesday he moved in at about 3 months old. So that was my person.
I met Brett at Grace, and we started off as friends, and then I started to catch feelings for her. And yeah, what drew me to her was just like she's just such a she's just like a beautiful person inside and out. Like she was just a great friend and super just strong and wise and hardworking and just fun. And yeah, I told her how I felt on Alpha Drive, and so I'll always see that spot. And so yeah.
Same.
So Nina and I both went to Warsaw High School, so I met her there. I told her what I was going to say, and she said that's inappropriate. But I thought she was really attractive. Like most guys, I was like, oh, I'm going to go talk to her. At that point, I'm older and more mature, so you know, when you're a senior and she's a freshman, they always think you're a little bit cooler. So if we were both the same age, it probably wouldn't have worked out the same way. But that's how. But then getting to know Nina, just the heart that she has, and yeah, so that's what kind of drew us.
Thank you for saving some of the details. We have Dr. Kate here with us
I know,
today.
we're at
so
Grace. We're at Grace.
Thank you very much. Nina, you want to say something else?
So aside from being married to this great guy right here, we have 2 boys that we have brought home. We brought them home years ago, our 2 sons. We adopted from Haiti, so we now have a 13-year-old, almost 14, and which makes me feel really old saying, and a 10-year-old. So that is our family.
Yeah, so some of the questions that we're going to answer aren't just from me and Nina. It's going to be what that looks like being adoptive parents too. So.
Great, thank you, and thanks again for accepting the invitation to share with us. We really appreciate it. The beginning of relationships can be exciting. They're always exciting. A lot of expectations and hopes and dreams. But then you start dealing with a person of a different culture. I always tell those willing to date Latinas, sometimes what gets your attention at first ends up being a source of irritation later on. Just a quick example, then I'll move on to my question. A lot of people say, well, you guys are so family-oriented, you know, you're always together, and you share everything together, and family is very important for you. La familia es lo primero, that's what we say, families first, right? But then after you engage in the relationship, and if you continue that relationship, you start discovering how Latinos, especially Latino moms, bless their hearts, tend to get involved. How many Latinos do we have in chapel today? Anyone? 2 of them. Don't worry, we're not checking IDs, guys. So you can say we're not checking any papers today. Great, fantastic. We do have a couple. There you go. You will corroborate this. Latino moms tend to get very, very involved with their sons, especially sons. And then what used to be something fun, interesting, now it becomes a source of irritation. By the way, here's my daughter-in-law, Hannah. She can witness of this. She's married to my son. So what do you guys wish now that you knew when you first started dating or getting to know each other, or when you first brought the person into your household, to your family? Anything that now you wish, I wish somebody had told me this about the background, the culture, the upbringing of the person. You want to start with you guys, the burgers?
Well, I would say when I think of my kids, this is like my second mother here, Lori. So I had wise people tell me that race and adoption and all of that would come in, but I have a tad bit of a stubborn side, and so I really didn't think about the race being an issue. And it wasn't long after we brought our kids home that I started to realize, oh, there's this whole other side that's not related to adoption that I need to be aware of, and that Ryan and I as parents need to just start exploring and figuring it out. And thankfully we have lots of wise people in our lives to kind of help guide and dialogue with us.
For me, is this on? Okay. When, like, growing up, I've always thought new cultures were exciting and really something I was super interested in. Like, in high school, people would say, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, travel the world, that's what I want to do. And so anytime I've had the opportunity to travel, I just love getting to experience new cultures and just observing and trying the different foods. Like, anything they put in front of me, I'll try it, as long as I get to experience something that they hold dear. And so that was something I was really excited about, you know, marrying into an Ethiopian family, is trying all their foods, experiencing all the culture. But I think young Britt didn't realize the heaviness that comes with being Black in America, and there's some heavy truths that come with that. So I think I didn't realize there's more than just this fun other culture, which is awesome, but there's also this heavier element. And so we've had a lot of conversations that honestly have broken my heart and made us just cry, because you don't fully realize until you're doing life with someone who's experienced it, and then you start to get a glimpse of it too. So I think that's something I've learned since doing life together, is there's more to it that's a little heavier.
Of course it is.
Wow. You could write a book on this one, right? I will just share that probably what I guess the lesson I would have learned much, much, much earlier, which is why I'm so proud of my kids and the way they're handling this. I wanted to believe in the kind of blind side, if you've seen the movie Mentality. I guess I did, that this adoption was all beautiful and wonderful, and you know, this was, and it was going to be perfect, and then I realized, boy, that was such a disservice to my son to live that mindset as long as we did. It wasn't until crisis came into our lives that we started really processing the difficulties and what he was facing, but also other young Black in our community. So I wish I would have been more informed myself. I was pretty ignorant and kind of living the happiness of it all and not realizing the harm that I was causing at the same time.
Would you be willing to share with us some of the difficulties, probably one or two things that...
Yes, I didn't know how to raise my son to be a Black man. I think is fair to say. I didn't know that there were lessons that he needed that I wasn't prepared to teach him, and so he learned those lessons the hard way, over and over again. And thank goodness, because of grace, God put my beautiful daughters, I have beautiful daughters, and two of them, Tasha and Quinetta Peaches, have helped me along the way, but I think they felt enough respect for their mama that they didn't come out and say at the beginning, you know, you've got to do this or you need to do this. Now that we're kind of adults together, they're really good. And so I guess probably I don't know when his story turned from some really romantic, wonderful, oh, he's so cute, where did you get him kind of comments to a threat to this community. And so all of my grandsons now, I count 10 grandsons of color, and that's my fear for them, is at what point are they just all of a sudden no longer this wonderful story, but they become a threat. I want to change that in this area.
Nina and Ryan, I would like to thank you, by the way. If you guys want to share, what has been some of the difficulties that you guys have experienced in raising your children?
Yeah, I would say that when we were going through the adoption process, we were just so excited about the adoption process and about how we were in it. It was a hard thing to go through, 16 months, traveling back and forth from Haiti. I never really thought about the race issue. And then we come back here, and again, we have a 13 and a 10-year-old, and we've already had conversations about names they've been called at school and how to handle that. We were at, it used to be Big Apple Bagel here. I was just trying to think of different things last night, and I was sitting with the boys when they were younger, and somebody came up to me and said, hey, where'd you get them? How much did them cost? My daughter needs to get her some of them. And I'm just like, what are you talking? Like, this is so strange that that's happening here. But just the fact that we've had to have those conversations with our kids about things that just seem so hurtful, and the fact that we know we're biased, but we think our kids are amazing. They have amazing hearts. They're so sweet. But there's people in the world, even people in our community, that don't even care about that because of the color of their skin. They're not going to be able to get to know that heart. They're not going to be able to get to know how sweet our kids are because of the color of the skin, and that's heartbreaking. It's frustrating. It's sad. So those are some of the struggles that I think we're facing.
I want to come back to you, Ryan, with the next question. Just a reminder for you guys, please text your questions to the number that was up there on the screen just a few seconds ago. Send us your questions. We will select a few and we'll discuss and see what we can keep on learning. I have a quick question. This is not on the list. I'm sorry. I don't want you to be blindsided, but if you want to pass on, that's okay. I'm learning now in the last couple of years about what black fathers, parents, have with their children called the talk. And it's not a talk about the sex, the discovery of sex, but it's a talk about the color of their skin. Did you, and again, you can pass on, but did you have that talk with your?
Yeah, so I think we've had, so having the talk about sex and stuff, that's a different kind of awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's like, you have to have that talk with kids in like 4th or 5th grade now.
Yeah.
But the talk about the color of skin is just, again, it's a heartbreaking conversation because I have to sit down with my kids and let them know that some people just aren't gonna like them because of the color of their skin. Some people are going to hate them. They're gonna say really hurtful things towards them just because of the color of their skin. And to try to tell that to a 10-year-old, especially during the COVID stuff where race was just under attack, it seemed like every day, and our church did a big sermon series on it, and we would watch it with our boys, and one of the neighborhood kids made a comment about only black people listen to rap music, or just something like that. And he came home so heartbroken that he was telling us, I don't want somebody to judge me just on the color of my skin. And to sit down with a 10-year-old that's crying and to be like, yeah, neither do I, but it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen, I think, and it does happen. And Nina and I were talking about this, and I can give it to you because I'm talking a lot, but where's the line of where do you protect your child on this stuff, and where is it where you prepare your child? Because I don't think it's an if it's gonna happen, it's when it's gonna happen. And as you can see by the color of my skin, I'm not gonna go through all the same stuff that they're going. So to be able to lean on people like Gershom for that, but not only for that, but like, he sent me a video of how to do his hair the other day. And I had to hold it up for my 13-year-old, like, I don't know what to do, but it's just stuff that they're gonna have to learn from our community about how you grow up black. But yeah, it's been difficult.
And luckily, we've had Gershom and our pastor and people to help speak and to have those conversations with us. Like, we have had those conversations. We have cried with our kids. We've been frustrated with our kids. Media has taught our kids a lot, and again, our kids are pretty sheltered. But media has taught them a lot, and public schools have taught them. I mean, it's just the world that we live in. So we have had those conversations. Yeah, which isn't always good, but we've had to have those conversations and hard conversations with our kids that we were not prepared to have them.
Because as you start thinking about being married and having kids, because if you don't have those conversations, somebody else is going to. So you want to be able to have those conversations.
I don't want to move on to the next one. If you guys want to say something else about the question.
What was the question?
the talk.
We don't have.
You don't kids yet.
Well, yeah, we don't have kids, you know, and I think that it's something it's tough because it's like the whole point of this isn't just like a doom and gloom conversation. Diversity in culture is beautiful, you know, and it's not just like if you're white or black or Hispanic, like the Lord made you the way He made you, and it's beautiful, and you should find no shame in that. I want to emphasize that, y'all. Like, I do think there is almost a rhetoric of like, you know, white people, you should feel like bad about being white. I'm rebuke that. Like, you are wonderfully and beautifully made in the same way I am. There is history though, in terms of how I would say, for me, my perspective, how the black community has been portrayed in media since this like country has been a country. But I do want to say that like this isn't just a look at like you should feel ashamed for the color of your skin. No, I know I don't want that. But like when I think about diversity in culture, like there's so much beauty and there's so much like I don't know, there's so much curiosity that we should all have, you know, and want to be a part of it. And when I do think about the talk, you know, if we either have kids of our own or adopt of a different, of a different culture, yeah, we have talked about that. We've talked about like whether it's, you know, people on the street, whether it's people in our own, I tell you what, it's a lot of my experiences have been people I know, my friends, my teachers, like people in the church. And so you know, you hear about like, how could a person on the street that don't know you like say something like that to you or that kid but like a lot of times I hear comments from people I kind of like I love, you know, and it's hard. But yeah, we have talked about that, and I know we're not gonna be perfect. And like Ryan and Nina said, protect a future Tadesse from whatever experience that they have. But we do want to equip them to know that they are wonderfully and beautifully made, just like you are. But at the same time, because we live in a fallen and sinful world, people are gonna look at them and maybe demonize them for the way they look, you know. And so.
We have only just a few more minutes for this section of chapel, and not just because of the sake of changing the tone. Thank you very much for opening up your hearts to us. I heard at the beginning consistently from almost all of you the concept of having someone to go to talk, to discuss, to reflect, to ask questions. And that's one of the beautiful things that I take from what you guys shared today, or the several things that you guys shared today. But I want to move on to this question now. What has been precious, beautiful, amazing from these interactions, the dynamics, and relationships that you guys have now?
Oh, that's easy. It's just expanded my family multiple times over. So I have family all over. I love my family in Chicago. I love my twin mama. I get to be mom, and she gets to be mama. But I love the relationships. I think all of that was God's kind of plan of bringing, you know, and I always think about that. If I didn't make this choice, because sometimes you start to beat yourself up, right? If I didn't make this choice, would that have happened? Or would I have met that person? Or would I love that person? Or would they love me right now? Would they be waiting for me tonight at dinner? I mean, there's so many things that happen, and it's all God's plan. And so, you know, you have to remember in the joys, which there's great joys, and the sorrows, that there's a bigger picture. It's a bigger plan. And so I thank God for that. And just constantly, I look at all the relationships that I've been able to make, and be honest and ask honest questions. And it's just His big picture, the way He's keeping everything connected.
Thank you. What has been beautiful?
I think I've learned so much about empathy, like being truly empathetic for someone else, because, I mean, walking into this relationship, like I shared earlier, there was a lot I didn't know. And I feel like sometimes that breaks my heart that I can't fully, you know, we say in marriage we're one now, but there's some things that I cannot fully understand because I am not the same color. And so that breaks my heart truly to be like, wow, like I've never experienced that the same way you have. And at first I hated that, like it made me so mad and frustrated. And so we would mourn that together. Like we would mourn the things we're seeing on the news. We would mourn for the people we didn't even know that were hurting. Like I would mourn for him and the weird looks that we've gotten together. And I feel like that has taught me that there is there's power in being empathetic. Like if you can cry with someone, mourn with someone. I mean, the Bible even talks about mourn with those who are hurting. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for, is just to be like a listening ear and to cry together and to be together in that hurt for a little while. And I think before I was always that type of like, it'll be fine, but to actually spend some time and like process what we're feeling together has been truly powerful, because, now that's kind of bleeding into my other relationships too. So I think there's so much power and empathy and just being with people where they're at.
I also want to say, like, it's been a lot of fun, honestly, learning about her culture and learning about my culture. Like, I want to say this, like, I think culture is a very, like, beautiful and God-given thing. I think because we're all human, and like I said, we're fallen, there is no perfect culture. And I think that we have a mentality of culture versus culture. But, whether it's an American culture, whether it's Ethiopian culture, whether it's like Hispanic culture, the black community, like the black culture, like there are so many beautiful things, but there are things that like aren't perfect because we're all human and fallen. And so like, but at the same time, there's a lot of like, introducing her, and I am like I was a man that was born in America, so I'm American. I'm Ethiopian. My parents and my family is all from Ethiopia, but I'm also like an African American. And so like I have these three cultures that I've like been at times feel stressed because I'm like stretched and want to be a wise representation of each. But I also am like I'm proud to be Ethiopian. I'm proud to be an African American. I'm proud to be like, I'm thankful to be in this country and be an American. And so like, but I know that there are things in each where I'm like, you know what, like that's like a con, like, or like that it's not perfect, and but as I was saying, like introducing Brit into a lot of those cultures, especially the Ethiopian culture, there's a lot of like, telling my mom like when she, food is a huge thing in my culture, and like I warned my mom, I was like, when she says she's done, because they be putting you on the plate, like it's like no, she's done, and then it's like another plate, and I'm like, nah, you need to stop. And so it's just like there's a lot of fun. Like there's just a lot of like it should be something that I feel like everyone should be curious on, because if you don't, you kind of miss out, honestly. So yeah.
And it isn't, I just want to write, it's not just black and white. That's not, there's another culture, a couple other cultures represented on stage, and part of our journey as well. When I talk about the big picture and the connections, would I have Nina as another daughter if everything didn't work out the way that it did? Probably not. And because I have Nina as a daughter, I met her parents and watched them become believers and have learned so much about her upbringing and culture. So this is a rich stage right now, these four. And really, what's beautiful, all four of you are beautiful, so.
Well, that's what I was going to say, too, is the beautiful part is that family is family and community is community. And, I mean, we get good laughs out of going places and people asking us, like, do you guys go together? I mean, there's humor in some of that, too. Yes, we are all four together in family, and we like to let people wonder, like, what's going on. But, I mean, the beautiful thing is it's family, and our kids feel loved and cherished, and there has never been a moment where there's not a heart in us that we don't have a phone to pick up to call someone to help us. And so, yeah, the beautiful thing is community and family, and that our kids feel that.
Amen. Thank you very, very much. Do we have questions, Hannah?
Yeah, so we have lots of good questions coming.
Okay, so you guys get ready.
Time to start sweating. Just kidding. Okay. So a couple of people have asked specifically when you're in like an interracial relationship or married to someone from another culture, has that led to like more conflict, more obstacles, and how has that been difficult, beneficial? What have you learned throughout that?
Marriage, it leads to conflict. I mean, we are happily married, and one thing I say is like when we brought the boys home, our family's going to look different because me and Nina are going to be married when they're teenagers, 20s, 30s, and they're gonna come home to a loving family with a mom and a dad. And that's gonna look different because 50% of the population is getting divorced. So not every kid's gonna have that. So when I think of like, because she's an Indian, because I'm white, is our marriage harder? No, it's just marriage. Like, marriage is difficult. You have to work at it. And I want you guys to hear that too. Like, because I was at Grace. I saw like, hey, I just want to get married. It doesn't matter if white, black, Asian, whatever it is, there's always going to be conflict. There's going to be, it's something you have to work at. So, I don't know, does anybody want to give me an amen on that so I don't get in trouble later?
Amen. I do want to state that, like, it's almost like there has been so much, this whole thing isn't just for interracial relationships. This is like interracial friendships. This is interracial, like, this is everything, like kind of looking at your own community. And, but like, maybe I'll talk about that a little later, but like, regarding relationships and dating and marriage, I think that like, there's a lot of beauty, but there has been some conflict. There is like a temptation, and I think this is definitely like the enemy, the devil using it of like, like it's almost like, compare how you were raised versus compared to how I was raised. And the thing is, that will happen if you married like, if two white people or two black people get married and with maybe very different experiences. Because I think we were both raised in very different experiences. And so there's almost like, oh, y'all family did it that way? Well, we did it this way. And you did it that way? Oh, then we did it this way, And so, like, that conflict, that's almost like a pride thing of, like, you find pride in your, like, you should be, I hope you, like, have a family that you, like, have, like, trust and value and have a great experience growing up. But, like, don't compare. Like, don't compare yourself if you do find yourself in interracial or just a dating or marriage experience where that person has a lot of a different experience. So there is conflict, but we I feel like with how Ben Navarro was talking about like a community-oriented experience, it's similar to Ethiopian, where we're just like, what's mine is yours, which is great, but sometimes it's a little much. And sometimes my mom is like Mama Bear. I'm like, Mom, I'm grown. Like she's telling me, do this, do that. I'm like, I know what to do. And I know Britt, I've shared like, almost like wondering where the great community in her family, but like more individualistic. And so it's almost like wait a minute, like let's acknowledge it and and appreciate it, but don't compare it, unless it's actually like unhealthy. I guess it's like good to like check that, but yeah.
Hannah, you cannot answer this question, okay?
No,
okay.
that's theirs.
Let's move on to the next question then.
Okay. Okay, this one's in the same area, kind of, about, like, when you're raising a child in maybe a family where two different languages are spoken, so this might not apply to everyone on stage, and that's okay. Is it okay for the parent to raise that children to speak both languages, to be bilingual, and embrace both cultures, languages? Or how would you go about that to make sure that's respectful to everyone?
Can you repeat the beginning of that, Hannah?
Yes. So, for instance, I'll use my life as an example. So my husband, Marcos, is fluent in Spanish. I am very, very bad at all languages, and it is very sad for my life. But would it be okay for us to raise any future children we have to speak both Spanish and English?
Oh, my stars, yes. Yeah. Totally.
Easy.
You can give me $5 later. No. Yeah, I think that was I guess I'm going to say it, my mistake, or I didn't know the other culture that I should have been raising. So Benjamin mentioned this representation, right? The value of representation. That's why I'm so proud of the way that my grandsons are being raised, because they're seeking out relationship, and so that they can have that experience. I don't think it's just language. I think it's just family interaction and those experiences Gersh was talking about with the way that they parent differently. The first couple times I was in with my Chicago family, I just thought it was so loud. And most people think I'm pretty loud, right? But I just thought, this is really, women are loud, right? And so we're kind of learning all that, and then now they make fun of me about some of it, but it wasn't funny, right? He missed out on that experience and that rich opportunity to live kind of in both worlds, yeah.
Man, why would you not want your kids to learn? Like, how cool is it when you hear people learning multiple languages? You know, my mom speaks Amharic and English, and I knew Amharic, which is the Ethiopian language, when I was really little, and then I started watching PBS and Arthur, and then it was all gone. But I'm like bummed. I'm bummed. Like, and I wish I still knew it, and I wish I knew more languages. There's like, is there a mindset that you have to pick one culture and that's it? Like, no, like embrace multiple cultures. And if you have like, you know, like diverse kids, whether adoption or like whether through interracial relationship, like, man, have them embrace both. You can find like I just talked about, I find like pride in like all of these three cultures that I find myself in. And so like, yeah, definitely, for sure. That's easy.
Yeah, just so our 10-year-old, his middle name's Prince, and he lives up to it a lot of times. But when we were working, he would spend a lot of time at Nina's parents' house, who are both Indian, and he was so confused. Sometimes he would think he was white, sometimes black, sometimes Indian, because he would be like just asking for Indian food all the time, and you know, just eating with us. It was just, yeah, certain words that I was like, what are you talking about? But he was, and it was just, it's a beautiful thing too. It's just kind of fun.
I think I want to say something about this topic. We said several Hispanics here. Probably you grew up speaking Spanish at home as a heritage speaker. And in conversations with my own kids, sometimes they will refuse to speak Spanish. Even to us, sometimes they will answer just back in English. And my wife was the one that kept the language, I would say, alive pretty much in our home. She would insist, you know, since I teach Spanish for 8 hours, I didn't want to teach anymore once I got home. But she was the one that kept on insisting. And my kids will make comments, comments saying that they didn't feel comfortable being around others and switching to Spanish. And what we, both of us, used to tell them, and still sometimes tell them, people around you will look strangely, you know, like, whoa, you know, what happened here? It's not because they see you a threat, not because they don't like it necessarily, but in some cases people admire you because you have an extra edge. And I keep on telling my children, sometimes what they see in you, they see it as like, they wish they had that. Because here you are, you can communicate with 460 more million people. Mm-hmm. Just like that. You know, you can switch and your audience has changed. So what I tell them, answering that question, nowadays you cannot afford to go, you know, to this world speaking only one language. You need to have something else to throw on the table, to have with you, something that will distinguish you from the rest. So sorry, go ahead.
One more thing. I want to say this. If you find yourself with, you know, whether it's an adopted child of color or if you have your child, you know, that is a minority, I'm telling you, if you do not find pride in that culture, they will not find it. I promise you, kids, the last thing kids want to be is different. So if everyone's speaking English around them, they're the last thing they're going to. From talking from my experience, I didn't have a male representation growing up. And not a ton. I mean, I had some Ethiopian representation in my community, but like the last thing I wanted to be, because I went to a private Christian school that like I was a minority big time, and like the last thing I wanted to be was seen as this black African kid. And so, you know, people wonder why is diversity important? Why is representation important? I promise you that if you do not look at their culture and be like, you are this, and it is beautiful, and you do your best to make efforts to put representation around that child, they will do whatever it takes to push against that, and find. I remember finding shame in my culture, in the color of my skin, and I am like, I don't know how I was delivered from it. Only had to be the Holy Spirit, but I know like, I want to be a representation that I didn't have when I was younger for their kids and kids around in this community. But, you know, if you find yourself with a child of color, whether it's half or whether it's 100%, find find ways, find resources to have that person be like, oh, this is part of me and it's beautiful. And so,
Do we have
Alright.
time for a couple more questions?
We have time for like one more question. So if you don't have very many friends or people in your life that are from different ethnicities, races, how do you become friends with them in order to benefit from learning about other cultures?
Great question.
That's really hard because I think, I think it's about relationship. You find the qualities and characteristics of people you love, and I think it's not like, oh, look, there's a black person, I should try to be their friend, right? I've got one black friend, so I'm not racist. I think that's kind of the danger, is it's about a person. It's not about that, and so I think that's maybe the one good thing is that it's just loving a person. I don't know. Is that wrong?
no, you're right. I've had a lot of like white people who are the majority ask me like, what do I do? Like, you know, especially if you live in Warsaw, you know, it's like not a lot of us around. And so like, I think I don't want you to go up to someone and be like, hey, you're black, can we be friends? Don't do that. But I do think it's a willingness kind of to step out yourself. You know, as the minority, I would say like a lot of times I have to step out myself and be uncomfortable for the sake of, because I'm the minority, I have no other choice. And the thing is, when I came to Grace, you know, I was like, my mom really pushed me to like embrace all culture. Like, it didn't matter if you were black, white. Like, my color of my skin is not my identity. Jesus Christ is my identity. It's a daily task to remind me of that. But like, I remember coming to Grace, and you know, it's like majority is white, obviously here. And like, I remember when black kids would sit at the lunch table together, and I would sit with them sometimes, but and other times I would sit with my friends that were just, you know, white. They'd be like, you know, why are they all sitting together? I'd be like, why are all y'all sitting together? You got like 10 tables here. And it's just like, I'm like, are y'all serious? Like this is one table of like 10 or 15 people. And it's like, I feel like you need to like find yourself stepping out sometimes. And whether that's, man, we've got, me as an art, like I am here to, I want to be like my dorms to be like fruitful, but I'm also here for students that look like me that want to be a resource. We have Maya, we have Daniel, you know. Maya's starting a book club, you know, that is like pursuing black authors, you know. And so like, you need to step out a little bit, you know. And honestly, like, I feel like that's what a lot of minorities do. They have no other choice. And so, so find yourself maybe stepping out a little bit, whether it's BSA or whether it's the book club or whether it's pursuing maybe Maya or Daniel or Prof. Navarro or me or, I don't know, it'd be like, hey, like, tell me more about this. Tell me more about your upbringing. Tell me more about this culture. I don't know. And so.
We have Jennifer Montoya here from Esperanza Latina. You can join our Latino club. Jalen, I don't know if he's in the house for BSA. And I think we're still forming an Asian Latino Asian student union, what I'm trying to say. Yes, so join some of the activities and participate, volunteer. All of our activities, I would say, are open. I mean, 100% of them to anybody that wants to come and share with us. We have had in Esperanza Latina nights of loteria, when we will gamble. I'm sorry, no, we play a couple of games. We don't gamble, but Loteria night is for fun, and everybody can come. We will say the numbers in both Spanish and English, so you can practice your Spanish numbers. Hannah, how are we doing with time?
We're about ready to wrap up. So
Yes.
if you guys have like one last thing you want to say before we pray and
I can finish it up.
Yes.
I really wanted to do this chapel for the sake of, I think diversity is really important, and I don't, you know, you hear diversity, you hear even race, and a lot of people clam up, and I really wanted to be, I think I've emphasized this before, but like, man, I want you to, I think there's a lot of almost like shame in this conversation, a lot of like wrong feelings that I think the devil tries to put in us of like, oh wait, why should I feel bad? I haven't really done anything or this and that, and like I want to like just emphasize that like there is a lot of just beauty, and there should be curiosity in this conversation. And I really want to encourage you guys, to challenge you guys to look at your life and see the diversity, or maybe even the lack thereof. And not only see that, but like, is there a willingness to be a part of that? You guys know, like in Revelations, it says every tribe and every tongue together praising the Lord. And I think about that, and I think about that in the times that we've had, and I think about the peace, and man, it just like, oof, it like excites me so much. But do you know that like heaven is going to be the most diverse community of all time in history, but the Sunday service is the most segregated hour of the week? That just doesn't make sense to me. And I just think, like, what are we doing about that? And I do think it takes all of us. I don't just see like white people and just be like, it's all on you. Like, no, it takes all of us. But like, I do think I want you to look at your life and be like, what am I like pursuing this? And I'll say this, like, there's a lot of beauty, like I said, there's a lot of fun. There's a lot of like, I think we've joked about, the different cultures that we've had, and like, just like, it's kind of crazy, but like, you can't take the good without the bad, And when I say that, I mean, there are a lot of people that have had really tough experiences because of their culture, because of the color of their skin in this country. And I think a lot of times when people talk about that, everyone freezes, and it's like, oh. And I'm like, you can't, the color of my skin is not my identity. Like, I promise you that. And if you come to me with curiosity, if you come with me with actual, like, wanting to learn, I promise you, I will not make you feel shame. I will not make you feel, like, small for being white. No. I want you to feel, the way I feel in terms of, like, just glad the way you're made. But you can't take my experiences that are good, and then when I share my experiences that are bad, ignore them. Like, that's hurtful. And I think that happens a lot. I think about my experiences, and, a number of things have happened, growing up in Ohio and growing up here in Warsaw, or being here in Warsaw, and I feel like the last people I want to tell are people in the church. And I don't know, I think I'm not alone, and I think that should do something for y'all. Like, I think that, like, that should hurt. We can talk about all these different issues and sins in the church, but I see it, y'all. Like, I see when race and diversity pops up, everyone kind of clams up, and it, like, kind of breaks my heart. And, I think about the Good Samaritan story, and that's a story I think, we all love to read about. It's, like, a beautiful story, but, like, don't get it twisted. Like, that is a story about racial tension. Jesus, a Jew, told a story about a Samaritan. Those two people groups hated each other to the point where they didn't even cross through each other's countries to get to the other side. They went around it way more time. These two people groups hated each other, and Jesus is telling a story about, a Jew who has, like, obviously been beaten down, and a Samaritan looks at him and doesn't say, well, what put you here? Well, how did you get here? Well, maybe if you did this, maybe if you went this road, maybe if you didn't carry all that pocket change. No, he just helped him. He was with him in that pain. And I think a lot of times when I've shared my experiences, it's people saying, let me slap that Jesus Band-Aid on. It's like, you got Jesus. And I'm like, what? Like, don't share the gospel in just your words, share it in your actions. And I think when Jesus says, I'm hungry, feed me, I'm thirsty, give me something to drink. Like, if someone is actually hungry, you're not just gonna tell them, well, accept Jesus and you're good. Give them something to eat, like, they're hungry. And so, like, be with them in their pain. And I'm telling you guys, like, man, I want, we're not gonna get to that heaven community perfectly, but we can darn sure try our best to get close to that. And so, yeah, that's all I have to share. And I really encourage you guys to, like, just think about it, challenge yourself, and you have resources. You have all these people on this stage that work here, and a Res Life team. And these people, if you see them,
You could volunteer for Agatas in the summer.
Yeah,
Hang out with them all the time.
you have a staff, you have a Res Life team. We want to, like, just, like, help with this conversation. I promise you, we care a lot about it. And so, but that's all I have, and I can close in prayer.
Please do so.
And then I'll let y'all go. Dear Lord, I just thank you so much for this ability to just talk as a community. Lord, man, I just pray whatever words that were shared today were from you, Holy Spirit. I pray that we can leave this chapel and really try to pursue a community that we're going to have in heaven, and that we can have the humility, the conviction to look at ourselves and say, how can we act like you, Lord? And again, I just thank you for this community here at Grace, and I pray for these last couple weeks. I just pray it can be fruitful. In your name I pray, amen.
Let's give our panelists a round of applause, please. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Make sure you.
Thanks a lot.